see the future, sometimes you need to understand the past. This is the official description for the teaser video that introduced us to Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. But I believe it could also be 𝗦𝘂𝗰𝗶𝗹𝘀's way of encouraging us as an audience to bring our focus back to the beginning. Back to the original games, the original characters. It is fully possible that the reason the FNAF lore has just been getting harder and harder to solve over the years is because we've been missing a huge detail from the start. I believe I may have found the key piece that the FNAF puzzle was missing, and it flips the entire story that we thought we knew upside down. In fact, it could even answer one of the biggest lingering questions about Midnight Motorist, which I will get to. Everything new, everything old, it all comes down to one character. Michael Afton is one of the most prominent and widely discussed characters in the FNAF franchise. Yet there's actually very little information about him that's confirmed to be canon. Over the years, the community has pieced together a rough story to outline who he might be and what his motivations might be. But does this story actually work? The general consensus on Michael is that he's William Afton's oldest son. When he was a kid, he wore a foxy mask and terrorized his little brother, eventually resulting in the fight of '83. As an adult, he works at various fast-food locations and eventually meets his own demise in the FNAF 6 fire. However, we are missing something. Here's why. In the FNAF character encyclopedia, one character is noticeably missing. Michael. Michael is a key player in the FNAF franchise. If we already knew all there was to know about him, he would be in that book with all the other major characters. This book contains Boulder Toy Bonnie for f***'s sake, but not Michael Afton? This means that unless Michael's absence is some sort of absurd red herring, then there is something big we've been missing about him this whole time. So who is, or what is Michael Afton? Michael Afton is the Mimic. Okay, wait, listen, hear me out. No, Michael Afton is not the literal endoskeleton that we see at the end of Security Breach Ruin. Probably. But there are a lot of reasons to believe that the Mimic program is actually in Michael's brain. In Ruin, we learn two huge new things. 1, the Mimic exists in the games. 2, Fazbear Entertainment has the ability to shove programs into people's brains. We see this with the Helpy program instantly becoming part of Cassie's brain when she puts on the Vanny mask. Knowing that this technology exists, we have to ask, what does it mean for the larger story? Listen, what if this is how the story goes? It's 1979. Fazbear Entertainment gets instructions from the head of the company, William Afton, to retrieve the Mimic from Edwin Murray's old warehouse. And William, being the experimental and ruthless scientist that he is, just sends team after team on this dangerous mission, prioritizing his own desire to have the Mimic technology at his disposal over the lives lost along the way. Among many others, I predict that in Secret of the Mimic will be successfully retrieved. And naturally, since William is in charge of the company, the technology would eventually be brought to him. But now that's at his fingertips, what is William Afton gonna do with a program designed for mimicking things? I mean, it's not like there are any characters in this franchise that are known for essentially being a duplicate of William Afton. Oh my gosh, there is! It's Michael! 1983, the crying child dies due to the reckless behavior of Michael Afton and his friends. But would William Afton really be the type to let this deed go unpunished? After all, Michael is the only one of his kids that William never shows any sort of soft spot for. He built a 7-foot animatronic for Elizabeth and tries to put the crying child back together, which is open for interpretation, I don't know. But to William, Michael is just the bratty kid that kills his other son and gets his restaurant shut down. So what better way for William to punish him than by pulling the ultimate narcissist move? Using the technology he retrieved 4 years ago to turn his own son into his personal mimicking servant. In Ruin, Cassie puts on a mask and ends up with the program maliciously shoved into her brain. If this technology was around earlier in the timeline, then all William would have had to do is give Michael his foxy mask and watch him put it on. Now, I understand that this might sound too sci-fi, but we have to remember that this is the same franchise where Glitch Trap infects Vanessa and turns her into Vanny. But before that ever happened, let's take a look at Sister Location, where FNAF takes its sharpest turn into sci-fi. Sister Location is one of the only times in the franchise where we really know we're playing as Michael, between the sticky note on the hand unit with Mike's name on it and his monologue at the end of the game. And something to keep in mind about that monologue, the voice actor who delivers it is PJ Haywood, the exact same person who voices William Afton in the exact same game. And if we pay attention to the specific line spoken by Michael in this monologue, he says about the animatronics in the bunker, quote, "They thought I was you." In addition to looking almost identical to William, Michael's behavior and mannerisms also become so similar that the animatronics themselves can't even tell the two apart. And if Michael's brain is truly infected with a Mimic program, it could also explain some of his incredibly strange behavior. For instance, at the end of Sister Location, Michael is sitting and watching The Immortal and the Restless when Enter just casually slouches into the room, and Michael doesn't seem to give a flying f***. He just keeps sitting there eating his popcorn. But if he actually did have control over himself due to the Mimic program, he wouldn't be able to run away or fight back or do anything. Michael having the Mimic program in his head could also explain one of the strangest lines in the whole franchise, which is also in Sister Location. The baby isn't mine. The baby in The Immortal and the Restless looks and acts exactly like Vlad, the presumed William Afton stand-in. It's almost like he's mimicking. If Michael is just a mimic of William, then it's easy to say that he isn't William's literal baby. It's still the body of Michael Afton, but his soul is buried deep down beneath the mimic programming. Okay, so if you've stayed with me this long, I need you to just stay with me a little bit longer because things are about to get even crazier. We see the process of Michael turning from a normal human into a decaying corpse walking around. And what color did Scott Cawthon intentionally choose to represent this living corpse? Purple. So am I suggesting that purple in this game just equals corpse color and William Afton was actually long dead before being spring-locked? I mean, yeah, kinda. There is not a single other purple human character in this franchise other than William and Michael. I believe the reason William Afton may have been able to survive being spring-locked was because he was scooped by the scooper. And Michael, being a mimic of William, ends up doomed to the same fate of being scooped by the same scooper. Now hold on to something while I remind you how the actual mimic endoskeleton gets killed in the game. In the good ending of Ruin, the mimic is killed by the claw of the scooper. Just like Michael Afton, just like William Afton. Is it a stretch? Maybe. Do you have to believe me? Absolutely not. Am I just theorizing? Yes, I'm just having fun. Please lower your torches. But at this point you may be thinking, purple isn't corpse color in the game, purple is Afton color. But that's not necessarily true because purple is only associated with William and Michael. Elizabeth and the Crying Child, on the other hand, don't have a trace of dark purple in their entire designs or even the designs of the animatronics they possess. This is also what I meant when I said this theory gives us a new perspective into Midnight Motorist. The mustard man in this minigame was more or less confirmed to be William Afton by the Springtrap antenna on the Midnight Motor car in Five Nights at Freddy's. And if it's William Afton, why is he this yellowish orange color instead of his signature dark purple? I think the odd coloring in this minigame may have actually been very intentional in order to show us that this was before William originally died, before he was ever scooped. This would also explain the white and gray figure we see. It's Michael before he was scooped, possibly before he was William's puppet. And on the subject of puppets, as theorists love to point out, there is a poster in FNAF 6 that literally depicts Michael as William's puppet. However, it's not just any puppet, as it looks identical to the William Afton figure holding it, just smaller, weaker, subject to the whims of the puppeteer. If we put all of this together, the story of FNAF becomes even sadder than the story we thought we knew. After losing both his little brother and sister and blaming himself for one of these losses, Michael then loses himself. He then gets betrayed by his own father and becomes nothing more than a hollow, decaying body subject to the whims of a murderer. Forced to live a life mimicking William Afton of all people, he goes from Fazbear location to Fazbear location, working at each one. His brother tries to reach out by saying, "It's me," but Michael simply doesn't have enough control over himself to help him or even stay with him. Then, like his father, he gets his insides scooped out and becomes a walking corpse in sister location. Finally, even in death, he's stuck mimicking his father, burning away with him in the FNAF 6 fire. And I do believe this is where the story of Michael Afton ends. If nothing else, where his physical body finally dies. Now, where does that leave us going forward with Secret of the Mimic? Well, we know FNAF loves to have fun with their game titles, like the double entendres of Sister Location and Help Wanted. And I haven't heard anyone else call this out, but I think Ruin could be the same way, asking, "Are you in? Are you in, Cassie? You wanna go die for Gregory? Because you're gonna die, Cass." For Secret of the Mimic, though, I think there is a literal explicit secret. And that secret, the secret of the Mimic, is that the Mimic is Michael Afton. Or maybe the reason we don't see Michael in the character encyclopedia is because that would reveal that we actually play as William Afton in FNAF 1 through 3, which is why in the character encyclopedia, William is listed as being in FNAF 1, even though we don't actually see him until FNAF 2, and if he was scooped before me in Springlock, that would explain the odor. But that isn't likely, right? Right?